Okay. Host has disabled your screen sharing.
Uh-oh.
When
Okay,
was
I
the
made you
last?
co-host. What about now?
Oh. Yeah, let's check it out. All right, all good.
Awesome.
And you guys can see that okay?
Yes.
All right, Lee and UCI with our powers combined. So here we go. Work experience. I don't know if any of you could tell me some of the places that you have worked where you've been in an office or a warehouse, an internship. If any of you guys can chime in, I think internships, you guys are probably starting to have some jobs or part-time or some work experience.
Johnny, do you want to go first?
Wait, where are those like companies from our LinkedIn? I feel like you added like yesterday. I'm like, wait, like, how did you like? I was like looking at this, like, oh.
That's so funny.
So who are some of these people? Who's at Side or Double Door or Capital One? Is that any of you guys?
Yeah, that's Philip.
Mhm.
Philip, do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Side was a real estate company I worked at during my freshman year. Then Capital One will be the company I'll be at this upcoming summer. So yeah, that's about.
And what's Capital One doing for everything's remote or work from home, I imagine?
I think it'll be a virtual, and like HR is basically saying it's virtual at this point. So yeah, it'll be that.
And anybody else?
Oh, mine is Adno Studios, the last one. It's an earring business that I created sometime last August. I just make handmade wire and clay earrings for fun. Yeah.
I put you up there, so once you go big time, you're gonna need a warehouse. So
Yeah, I thought that was really funny because I didn't expect it to show up on your on your slides either. The first time someone's ever acknowledged it. So.
And how about you, Philip?
Oh, as in. Wait, like about what stuff? Just in general?
You're the one who did a Side in Capital One?
Yeah. So Side, that was more of like an accounting, like a corporate finance role, and that was like fine, I guess. But I kind of realized I didn't like accounting as much. And then for Capital One, it's more of like a business analyst type of role. So yeah, so I think I want to transition more to that type of like job function instead. But I think real estate's always like really interesting. So I think that's always like on my radar going forward.
No doubt. I only ask because a lot of people, when they work at these places, they don't necessarily think those have to do with real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about Capital One having like how many offices they have, or that there's people at their corporate office that's taking care of all of these offices and how big they are and what they pay every month, or how long they're signed up for, or how often they move to different offices. So that's something that most people, it's not something that you think of until you've joined the world, till you've had a couple of jobs, and until you, for us in commercial real estate, all we do is deal with office leases and warehouse leases. So these are the type of people we'll call on. So we'll call on these types of companies. We'll find out who handles their real estate, and then we'll ask them questions that have to do with the bottom bullet point of how much space they have, or what their plans are for growth, and how their relationship is with their landlord.
Oh, okay.
So just to connect that with you guys. And let's see if we can, okay, so me, this is year 16. pretty much all of Southern California. I've gone city by city for all of the industrial markets. And then I have a couple clients I work for across the country. So I've done some work in 10 or 11 states. And then I'm a anteater for undergrad. I was an econ major who started as mechanical engineering and quickly realized I'm not going to be an engineer anytime soon. And then I went back to grad school, business school, and then USC has a real estate development program. And then I just wrote my first book that should be out in April. And that was during COVID. It's a great time when you've got extra time at home for writing a book, editing, and going through that whole process. I'll get into a little bit of that later if you guys have any questions. And then maybe Grant, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Grant LeBounty. I've been working full time since the start of 2020. So I think my start date was the 6th of 2020. So I had 3 full regular months before COVID hit. And then pretty much everything I've seen within our industry has been related to COVID and how it's negatively impacted some sectors, how it's positively impacted the others. I mainly focus in the mid counties and then South Orange County as well. And I graduated from UCSB in 2019.
And then Jeanette, I added you to this so you can introduce yourself. She's the latest one to get out of undergrad.
Yes, I'm Jeanette Plamella. I'm a marketing research assistant and actually just started last month, I believe, sometime during the end of last month. So I've only been with Lee & Associates for a little bit, but I can definitely say I'm learning a lot. There's definitely more to this than I thought there was with the research. I had never done marketing research. So I graduated from Cal Poly Pomona as a marketing major. And, you know, I saw this posting for Lee & Associates. I thought it was really interesting for the research position. And, you know, I'm helping Justin with the project right now, and it's actually very interesting. You know, it's somewhat routine, but it's like dealing with different accounts, like in the commercial real estate, you know, it's a little different every day.
Totally. So a couple ideas I thought I would share with you guys is brokers. What are they? What do they do? If you want to be one, where's their opportunity? Industrial real estate, what is it? And why is it big right now? Day in the life, what do we do every day, all day? And then where are there growth opportunities and investment opportunities? So does anybody have anyone in their family that's a residential agent or know any friends that have gotten into that? Nobody, just Grant's mom, that's it.
Yeah, my mom has a brokerage too, so it's all residential.
Okay. So anybody who's had a family member be a residential agent, you get some bit of experience to see them on the phone and talking with people, dealing with issues. And for commercial real estate brokers, the general way the business is structured is very similar in that you are an independent contractor. So although you work for a firm and the firm provides you with resources, it's still up to you to create your own book of business, to find clients. And as a follow on to that, for here I put no healthcare, no retirement, no salary. It's not to get down in the dumps, but you basically, it's up to you to create your own opportunities. But what's great about it is you always feel like what you're being paid is in alignment with the effort that you're making and with your ability to create opportunities. So the more that you hustle, or the more that you stumble across luck, or the more that you're able to put together disparate pieces of information and connections that you have, the more you're able to create and grow your business. So it's actually been 16 years, of no salary and every month or every week being a little different for income. And then let's say you are getting into the brokerage world. What are your entry points? You would start as an intern, or you'd start as a part-time doing research like Jeanette is. And that's generally for 6 months at a time. And then if you decided you wanted to become a broker, you would turn into Grant LeBounty, where you would have a year-long program that is an apprenticeship. And that's where you're paid a salary, but it's a modest salary. And that's where you learn the nuts and bolts of what is, how do you put a transaction together? What is a lease? What are the documentation? How do you deal with clients? What are all of the real estate laws that apply to brokerage? And then after that 12-month period, then that's when you would become an associate, when your salary would go away. And then that's when you would start putting deals together. And at that point in time, you can choose to be on your own. You can stay with the person who trained you, or you could start building your own team. It's really, after that, it's up to you to pick what direction you'd like to go. And then every firm after that is a little different. So if you've heard of CBRE, Jones Lang LaSalle, Cushman and Wakefield. I think you guys had a Cushman broker on a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago. They'll all have a different form of how their company is structured. Lee and Associates is private, and we're structured more like a law firm. So you can become a partner of the firm. And then once you have become a partner, then you share in all of the expenses. Think of the overhead of the building, the overhead for salaries for staff, for healthcare. But then you also start to participate in the profits of the company. And the next level above that would just start to be more commensurate with how much revenue you're contributing to the company and your ability to participate in the profit beyond that. But brokers, it's pretty flat. There's not a whole lot of, I mean, those are just titles, but at the end of the day, it's seniority more just has to do with your ability to create new opportunities. So brokers, any questions on becoming a broker, what that's like? We'll get into some of like the day in the life, but if you have any questions, chime in.
Yeah, I had one question. So on the path from intern to the next thing, where's kind of the process that you would expect them to get their real estate license?
That's a great question. When you become an associate is when you would have to have one. And then when you're an intern or a part-time assistant, you can if you want to, you don't have to. And when it comes down to what differentiates, like what duties can you perform if you have one and what duties can't you perform if you don't have one, it has to do primarily with quoting prices and rental rates with clients, and anything where you start to walk the path of doing a deal, whether it's a lease deal or a sale transaction. So if you do not have one, you can still work on marketing campaigns, and you can still help show property, and you can help answer general questions, but you can't get into the specific mechanics of a real estate deal.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. And then, so industrial. So why industrial instead of office or retail or hotels? This is the size of the market for the country. These are the top 20 markets. And number 3, 6, and 20 is LA, the Inland Empire in Orange County, what we'll call the LA Basin. That's excluding San Diego. But that makes up about 10% of the whole country. So we live in one of the biggest markets there is for industrial. And next up after that is you see Chicago, Dallas, New York, which is really more New Jersey than actual, like when you think of like downtown Manhattan, and Atlanta. Those are the big markets. So think of where all the ports are. Those are usually where all the big markets are located, or where there's a lot of rail. And then why is e-commerce hot right now? And think of Amazon, right? Amazon's taking over the world. It's shipping packages everywhere, and it's replacing going to stores. So show of hands, who here has received an Amazon package in the last week? Yes, yes, yeah. Anybody not? Other than Mateo sleeping? So as people, especially with COVID, right? So COVID's starting to close down stores and make it harder to go. Think if you go to the mall, what stores are open? And so the past year has been all these retailers figuring out how to keep all of their inventory in the warehouse and ship it instead of keeping inventory in the showroom and at the malls and at the stores. And so that's e-commerce is just a broad brushstroke. But if you look at the last sentence, we got omnichannel, last mile, and reverse logistics. All the omnichannel means is that you no longer just go to the store. You can do curbside pickup. You can have things shipped to like a Whole Foods or to the post office where you pick it up. You can have it sent to your office. You can have it sent to your house. Those are just the different channels through which people are fulfilling retail sales. Last mile is delivery. So think of everything that comes to your door. Usually doesn't come from the big warehouse that's 1 million square feet in Ontario. Usually all of that will be shipped into smaller cities surrounding downtown LA or Anaheim or Irvine. And then the last mile is the smaller box trucks that then take your box from that smaller warehouse to your house. And then reverse logistics is just returns. So more online shopping means more returns. And it seems like the challenge people are dealing with now is why spend so much money on returns if you're a company? And I've heard of companies like REI and others where they say just don't ship it back, just keep it. And companies trying to figure out how do you lower your cost of returns without having bad guys order stuff and then keep it, right? And do that on purpose. So that's an interesting challenge that is a byproduct of e-commerce. Any questions on that?
I had a question.
Yep.
Do you think a lot of these small warehouses will be turned, or do you think a lot of the malls, since they're located in suburbs and cities, will be turned into small warehouses?
There's a lot of chatter of people talking about it. What can we do with malls for the few malls that aren't working anymore? And it seems like an interesting idea, but I haven't yet seen it actually happen. So I feel like all the developers of the world are looking at it and trying to figure it out. But the physical components of a warehouse and loading docks and access to trucks is a lot different than the parking lot where, right, you would park your car and walk into what's a storefront. So I feel like although it's an intriguing idea and there's a possibility there, people still want places to gather. And so maybe retail transforms into different things, but I'm not quite sure if it's going to be warehouse specifically. And then some of the fun stuff is coming along with e-commerce is automation. So if you've heard of like, robots are taking over and you've seen the Boston Dynamics robots that can dance, they're not dancing in warehouses, but robotics is starting to become real. And so if you look at this picture, this is, you see the robotic arm. That's what you would first think of with robotics that can grasp things and move packages. But one of the bigger things that was started with a company called Kiva that Amazon purchased, where these little go-karts you see at the bottom that's orange and dark gray and light gray. And those pick up product and they take it to people, so that instead of people and forklifts going to pick up boxes and pallets, these robots can pick up boxes and pallets and then bring them to the truck drivers, and can help some of that manual labor be less manual. And then you could imagine how much more efficient you could be, how higher throughput you could get through buildings as a result. So there has been a whole industry of robotics that has blossomed in the past 2 or 3 years, of all of these companies trying to figure out not just the machine itself, but also think of all the software that would be needed to operate these. And then think of like LiDAR and all the sensors that you would also need to know where are all these boxes, and how do you keep track of them all, and how do you program which one goes where and when. And so all of that isn't applicable to all warehouses, but that's part of some of the big trends and themes that are happening within warehouses that are starting to be as a result of some of this change from retail to industrial. Now would be a good time for questions if you guys had any.
Would you say that like the use of automation requires like more need for space, or like less, because there's like less like there's less people in like these factories, or like, so would you say like kind of like that requires like less space in terms of like all the automation and equipment needed, or kind of like should there be like an expansion of real estate needed to accommodate all of this?
Yeah, some people worry about the people component, right? Are there less people that have jobs that can work because you have all of this automation? And it seems like the general sentiment is that it makes the jobs less manual, like think like less lifting and less physical, so that you may have some less people, but not a material amount. And then your specific question is like size of the building.
Yeah, if that would be impacted.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is what takes up the space in these buildings is the product, right? So if you sell chairs or air filters or computers or desks, those are all packaged up, and those are the boxes that take up the space. So I don't think that the amount that you need will change drastically based on automation. It will, I think the general thought process will be you'll be able to bring product in and ship it out faster. So you won't have to hold as much inventory. So if anything, you might be able to get by with less because you can move it faster. But I don't think it will take 100,000 feet down to 50,000 feet. You know, it's not like it would cut your size in half, but maybe that's something on the margin that affects it single digits or 10% or somewhere around there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then day in the life. So this is part of Jeanette's world. So Jeanette will help us with Salesforce. This is what the screen looks like. And that's where we keep track of everything. So the companies we'd like to do work with, and then all the clients that we already work with, where do we keep all that information? So Salesforce is the bomb. Like it's update all the time. It's always reliable and consistent. And so Jeanette's been helping us with identifying companies that we may want to work with, and then figuring out who works at those companies, and if they're at the local warehouse or if they're at the corporate headquarters, if they have a presence or like a LinkedIn, so that we can know a little bit about them before we approach them for a conversation regarding their company in real estate. And then at the bottom is where you can track opportunities, so deals that you work on or prospective deals. And then on the right side of this Salesforce window is where you would keep your notes and all your correspondence. So if you mailed someone a letter, if you emailed them and they replied to you, or if you were in the field and you saw something like their building was empty or it was packed or there was pallets in the yard, that this is where we would house everything that we know about it, all the companies that are in Southern California that we keep track of or would like to do business with someday. And then Jeanette will help us categorize these and organize these companies so that we can send them mail or postcards or announcements of deals that we've done or of new offerings that are available. And then on the right side of the window is CoStar. That's our MLS. And so you can see a little gray strip just above the aerial where those are all your tabs of if you want to see buildings that are for lease or for sale, if you want to know what company is renting that building, who owns it, what they paid for it, what the owner's legal entity that holds title to the property, and then what size and where. And so in a day in the life, Grant or I will look at this after Jeanette's prepared it, and then we'll look through and we'll say, okay, looks like Mike Feldmar's the CEO of this food company. They have a building in Compton and in Los Angeles that's one's 50 and one's 34. Here's their number. Let's call them up and say, hey, Mike, this is Justin. I've leased a building right close to here. It was this size. And this was the rate we were able to achieve in some of the deal terms. It looks like you own a building with such and such landlord. You guys should be having a lease here. It looks like in April 2021. Have you figured out what you're going to do? Do you want to sign up for a couple more years? Do you have a broker like me? Do you think you'd need help negotiating a new lease with your landlord? That would be like a general flavor of what a cold call or a warm call would look or sound like. And then cold calls lead to about 10 or 15% of the business we would do in a given year. By now, most of it's repeat and referral. Some come in off of email marketing using MailChimp. Some come off of sign calls and like online listing leads. But because we are independent contractors and we're always trying to grow and we're always trying to make sure we're having a better and better year, we still spend a significant amount of time every week just prospecting for new business and connecting with new companies that are growing in the area. And this is how we would keep track of it and the type of information we would look at before we would make any kind of sales call. Any questions on that one? Those are the fun calls. So real estate, you're finding people buildings, right? So you would think you're always in the market, driving around buildings and showing them. And that's a lot of what we do. But this screen would show you an example of 80% of the work you do with a client isn't finding them the building. It's dealing with the lease or dealing with the contract language or dealing with issues that they're having with their building. So this is the prior screen. This is for a client, this food company we've worked for 10 years. And so this year we were working on helping them sign a longer contract. So we don't have to move, but we have to A, figure out what we're going to pay. And then B, we've got issues with the roof, with the asphalt and the paint, and just figuring out what has the landlord done over the past couple of years? What happened to all the money we paid over the past couple of years we thought was going towards the roof, the asphalt, and the paint? And then when are they going to do the next round of maintenance? So it's just interesting to think of the million details that are involved in industrial lease. And Grant is in year one, so he can attest to how much detail work there is when you're helping clients. It's ends up being a whole lot more than showing buildings. Any questions on this one? Okay. So I got a video. I realized a video may or may not work very well on Zoom. Grant and I tried it out. He said it's maybe a little choppy. So I figured it's only 2 minutes. We'll give it a shot. And this is a client, this Felbro Foods. They just did like a little video testimonial. This was a couple years ago, but you can at least see what it looks like in their building and how they manufacture the food products that they make for people and for companies.
The video's not showing.
Okay.
I think you need to stop screen sharing and then open the video and then re-screen share again.
Sure. I think I know what you're talking about. Let's see here. Let's see. So that's sharing the QuickTime video optimized for video clip share. You guys see anything else now?
Yeah, we see the video. It says Lean Associates.
That's working now? Okay.
Hello, my name is Bart Feldmar. I'm the president of Felbro Food Products. Business was started by two brothers, Feldmar brothers. It's my father and my partner Michael's father were the brothers, so we're first cousins. Business was started in 1946, so we're coming into our 70th year. Real estate has been a big part of our business. As we continue to grow, the needs of moving from one facility to another has taken a lot of effort, a lot of searching for the right properties. Working with Justin has been at times frustrating, not because of him, he's great, but because of us trying to really determine what it is, what is our requirement? How many square feet? What kind of a facility are we looking for? But it's been a good experience because we learned a lot about him, showed us a lot of properties, and it's up to us to make the final decision, but it's been a very satisfying experience with him.
So that was a fun one for our boy Bart that we got to work with, and let's get this going again. Cool. So Bart, that one we ended up not even moving. We just renewed the lease for another 5 years, and then all this language and the issues we're dealing with now is just the subsequent 5-year contract renewal. So Bart, sadly, he passed away last year. His nephew has taken over the business. And so now I'm working with his nephew and his uncle. And it's been interesting to work for multiple generations of the same business. And then where Bart had worked on so many more real estate deals than I, now that I'm working with the next generation, I have worked on more than the nephew that's running the business now. So you really feel like you're advising and you're really like helping him make good decisions now that he doesn't have Bart around to help him anymore. So it's been interesting to see how your relationship with companies change as people move and, as your relationship changes with them. But I thought for them, they do soups, sauces, broths. They make the packets for tea And they make all sorts of different food for companies you might recognize that outsource the manufacturing of their products. And then any questions on that or on that movie that we saw at all?
Justin, I was curious on which area of, let's say, Orange County, LA, or the area you work with, where you can find manufacturing facilities similar to this, and where are they? Which area are they prevailing in?
Every city has some, and then some are have less than others. Right, so you think all the expensive coastal markets used to have some, and those have largely over the years are converted into houses. And as we go east, that's where we have land and where we're building new warehouses. But this example from this video and this food company, they're by the port. So they're 5 miles from the beach, like Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach. And then they're all over Irvine. They're Santa Ana, Anaheim, Huntington Beach, right? They're in all the big cities that are around UCI. But that first map we looked at, that are matrix that showed LA, Orange County Inland Empire, there's 60,000 of these warehouses in Southern California. So not all are manufacturing, right? Some are for distribution, but there's so many around here that, I mean, you probably couldn't drive more than 5 or 10 miles without running into one. But most people, they don't know what to look for. You'd have no reason to be in these neighborhoods unless you worked for this company or you were Grant out there looking for new business. So it's sometimes it's easy to pass by or to miss, but they're everywhere once you know what to look for.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's being a broker, and that's someone we would work with and some of the things we do during the day. But most people who get into real estate, they think they want to own property someday. So how does that fit into our world? So for us, our company was built on the idea that once you learn real estate, you should take the money you make as a broker and you should invest it in property. So you can invest it with clients, you can invest it with the company, you can invest it with your family, or you can just do it on your own. And it's been great to have a company that supports you investing in property. So the first 2 ways with Lee that you could invest money that you make as a broker is in the opening up of a new office. So this wouldn't be in property specifically, this would be in owning a small share of any of the Lee offices. So we have 60 offices now, it's coast to coast, and we're into our 2nd office in Canada. But you could invest a few $1,000s in one of the offices as we open them. And then every year, at the end of the year, the office will take the profit that it's made and it will pay back all the people that invested in it. And then this AEF fund is a fund that the company started for all the people who work here. So if there's a dozen people who will come up with property investments, and so anybody who works at Lee can invest in those properties as a group. And
Justin, sorry to interrupt you. Are you showing a slide right now or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think we're still stuck on the video.
Okay.
Video ending.
No worries. This is what you guys were talking about sharing your screen. You got to like go back to the screen you want to share every time.
That's awesome. Thank you.
No worries. Let me just make sure we got, if you missed it. Okay, so yeah, you guys didn't miss anything. So all that we had on here was just a map of all the offices that Lee has. So you can see where we're located and where you could invest in an office. And then for me, I've just decided personal investment. I may not be a control freak, but I felt like it was less comforting to just write a check to somebody for a small piece of a property and then leave it up to them to manage. So for me, I started to invest in property, and I started small. So the one on the top right is a 3-unit apartment in Costa Mesa. So not too far from here. And I bought it with my wife, and we moved into the front unit, and we did one of these like bigger pockets house hacks where you move into one and then you rent out the other units and you fix them up. And we got married, we had our first kid, and then it was only when we had our second kid that we said, we got to get the hell out of here. We can't live in a small little apartment, forever. We need some more room to grow. And then those are expensive though. When we sold it, it was $1 million, and coming up on buying another $1 million wasn't always, it takes a lot of time to save up. So rather than own nothing and just save and save and save, I started to look around for markets for small 3-bed, 2-bath starter homes. And I had $100,000 in my pocket, and I thought, well, where can I go where houses are $100,000 so I don't have to borrow any money from a bank, so that if I totally screw this up, it's not like the bank's gonna foreclose on me. And then I followed demographics, job growth, population growth, and that led me to Austin, Texas. And this was like 2010, 2011. And so I bought one for $100,000, and then cleaned it up, rented it out. I met a gal that was the agent. Her husband was the contractor, and her friend did the leasing. So between the three of them, I never had to deal with like a big company or deal with finding people. Those are my 3 homies in Austin, and anything you need, if you needed air conditioning to be fixed, or you needed to redo the flooring, or you needed to take care of the lease document, those are all the 3 people we needed to make the first one successful. So I went back in 2012 and bought another one, and then in 2013 and bought another one, and I still own those now. And it's been interesting to see Austin, Texas, right? Chances are someone in this on this call right now is probably going to live there in the next year or two, if I were guessing. It seems like that's the place to be. Rents, I've seen rents go up. I've seen the property values go up. And it was a great experiment that turned into learning what it's like to manage property out of state, to have a team of people that can help with investment, and then to see a market that's outside of my home market and just understand the dynamics of who lives there, why would they rent, how long do they rent for, what kind of issues would you be dealing with. And it's been great. It was a great stepping stone. And then after this, I could imagine one day taking the 3 of those, selling them all at the same time, and then taking whatever I've made from those, and then doing a 1031 exchange and taking that funds and rolling them into buying another industrial property or an office property. So I would imagine maybe some of you guys have a question or two. This is probably like the entry point where most of you guys would like buy your firsts, or what like your first purchase might look like.
Yeah. Were there any like challenges or kind of like a learning process, or like anything that you learned from buying these personal investments?
Yeah, I mean, imagine the conversation with my wife where I'm like, hey, that $100,000 we've been saving up, let's go take it to Texas and go buy a house out there. We've never been to Austin before. So just doing enough homework to have the confidence to actually, put my money where my mouth is was the first just internal lesson. But it's interesting to learn different states have different laws and different taxes. So you have to have a licensed Texas realtor to buy and sell property out there. And then taxes. Here we have Prop 13 tax protection, which means that our our property taxes can't increase more than 2% every year, and they're only reassessed when the property sells. In Texas, it's assessed when it sells, and then it's reassessed every year. So if your property goes up in value every year, you get a higher property tax bill every year. And then think of like landlord-tenant law. So in California, if you don't pay your rent, you can stay in your place while your landlord tries to evict you for months at a time. Where in Texas, you got 30 days, and it's not like the sheriff shows up with a shotgun, but you get the sense that like you don't have the right to be there if you're not paying the rent that you've agreed to. So it's interesting to think through of like property taxes is a big deal, dealing with that eats into your cash flow, right? So if you don't raise rents to stay with market, but your property taxes keep going up, you're going to cash flow less every year, not more. And then tenants don't screw around with you because they know that like there's it's a more landlord friendly state. So I just feel like you get a little less because these are entry level homes. So you're not renting to two people that are, lawyers and making big fat salaries. These are usually more blue collar people that are working a restaurant job or manufacturing job. And those would probably be like the first 3 or 4 things that I like experienced and learned just that are different than being in Southern California.
Nice. And in Texas, since they have to like reappraise the value every year, do they have an appraiser come out, and does the government pay for that, or do you pay for that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they don't do physical appraisal inspections like you would imagine a traditional, like a real estate, you sell a house and you get it appraised, or you're buying a house and you get it appraised. That's something they do like almost by like zip codes and by property characteristics. So it's a much broader brush stroke. So you don't pay for it because they're not really appraising just yours. They're appraising all the 3-bed, 2 baths in 78001 zip code that are between 1,000 and 1,500 square feet. And then they all get a similar type of assessment. But another difference is you can fight it in Texas. If you think they've assessed you unfairly, you can, there's a whole business out there that is property tax consultants and auditors. And so we don't have those in California as much because ours isn't assessed like that. So that is interesting that although it fluctuates more, you do have a say in it, or of like, if it seems out of whack, there's a remedy for that. And then we're in commercial real estate. So this would be like the dark side, investing in residential. You got to get involved in the business that you know. So our company, we're located in this office building that's on the left. It's 10,000 feet. It's 2 miles from UCI. And that's where I am right here, right now. And our office, when we were in our prior office building, our lease was up. We had to figure out what to do. So we all banded together and we bought this building, and then we gutted it, and then we built out the office, and then we moved our company in, and then we signed a lease with the company for 10 years. And so everybody had an opportunity to pitch in about 60 grand times 22 people or 25 people. And you didn't have to invest if you didn't want to. You could invest more if there was extra space that was available. And so that's 4 or 5 years ago. So it was interesting because that was my first opportunity of being a limited partner in, this wasn't really a syndication, but this is where you have a lot of people all putting their money together to buy something. So you have different agreements with that. And then you have to deal with what if someone dies? What if someone gets divorced? What if someone leaves the company? Changes to the student body of all the people that are partners here that invested in it. So it was interesting to think through, how do you structure that in a way that's good for you at the moment of you structuring it? And then how is this good for the group as time goes by and things change? And you also, then we had to deal with what happens with what money you make. Do you all get distributions and you get cash every year? Or do you put it towards paying down your loan? And so for us here, we do 50-50. So half of whatever you make, your return comes back to you and half goes to paying down the loan. And then that was also an opportunity to learn about non-recourse loans. So loans where you borrow money, but you don't have to sign personally for it. Because you imagine we've got 26 people. Well, are they going to have 26 of our families all guaranteeing, a couple $1 million? Or would it be just Grant and Jeanette, or if it was just a few people, should they get a higher return for taking a higher risk? So that was interesting for us to structure. How do you buy that office building and deal with getting a loan when you have a bunch of disparate partners? And then these two red pictures in the middle and on the right are industrial building that I bought, just me and my wife. So we sold that 3-unit apartment in Costa Mesa. We bought this industrial building that has 14 tenants. And this is in Dallas, Texas. So I do the leasing from here. I do the contracts from here. And then I have a property management firm there. So that property management is the boots on the ground. If you need to lock or unlock or rekey or manage some construction or tenant improvements or maintenance. And that's been maybe 3 years that we've owned that. So it's just been a great way to think through cradle to grave. We started leasing industrial buildings and we were able to take what we made leasing those to play the game of Monopoly, from those rental houses to an apartment, to an office building, to an industrial building. And that's what we know best, are industrial buildings. So there shouldn't be any issues that we face there that we're not already familiar with just from our day-to-day work. And questions for that one? I think that's, we only have 2 more after this, so we'll be wrapping it up in a little bit.
Justin, I was curious. I'm seeing, for example, there are solar panels on the roof of one of those buildings. And I've seen that there has been some kind of activity increasing in investments in solar. And mainly, like, majority of the projects are installed in these really big industrial buildings. Have you had the experience with anything like that on seeing large scale solar installations in industrial properties?
I've heard of them, and I've had some solar companies contact me asking about, like, looking for opportunities. And to your point on larger buildings, but I haven't seen it become like a pervasive. It's not everywhere. And what I had initially heard was a lot of those were like incentives based, right? So based on like them being lower cost or being incentivized by the utility companies. But it's not something we see as regularly as you would imagine. These particular ones, the prior owner had installed. And with big warehouses, you have skylights. And they're starting to build the bigger warehouses with more skylights so that you get more natural light, which means you need less light. And you're using more efficient LED lights. And these lights are on motion sensors. So when you aren't there, it's turned off. And when you are there, if it's bright enough and you don't want it to turn on, or you have less lights as a result, all of that comes back to less energy that you're using. So that would just, if I'm reading between the lines, I would think that maybe the savings aren't as worth it as you would hope them to be. And that if you were really thinking like big scale of like producing energy and like storing it and selling it back to the grid, that's where you would imagine like the really big solar farms that are in the desert and those kinds of things.
Thank you very much for the answer.
Yep. And so that's all the property stuff. So we're all shameless marketers in real estate because you have to advertise your property, you have to advertise your services. We constantly are looking for work. So we're always interviewing, trying to be hired, trying to find problems to solve. So this year's project was writing a book. So how do we do what we do? What's our process? And so there's a book writing school that I went to. That's this Scribe Media company that's run by Tucker Max. And someone had referred me to them, and they help you frame out your concept and your timeline. They coach you through you doing the manuscript, and then they help you with all of the editing. Then they have their actual formal editing team and staff that go through and polish up your manuscript. And then they help you with everything from like the cover to your Amazon page to doing your audiobook. And this would be something that we would use as a marketing tool as we're approaching CEOs of these manufacturing and distribution companies, so that they can understand that we've worked, like the experiences that we've had that might be able to help them. They can kind of see, hear, and read about them and have an extra resource. And so this year, that's been the new skill that I never thought I would write one. I never knew what went into writing a book. And it was only by finding these Scribe folks and having people help coach me through it that manuscript goes to the publisher next week, and it should be on shelves and on Audible in April 1, somewhere in the month of April. And so for any business owner, it's been a great experience that I feel like has already been worth it before it's even live and on shelves, just what you've learned in the process. So it'll be exciting to be able to have these to provide for executives and see if it helps in any way create new opportunities or open new doors that were previously closed. And then for writing a book, so much of it is what you know and tying it to stories and experiences to bring the lessons to life. And so I did a ton of interviews that were with executives and were with vendors and architects and contractors. And I did them in Zoom format like we're here now. So the next follow on to the book is, can you turn those into a podcast? And is there any value in marketing for podcasts? And so just recently have we started to explore the like putting all of those together and having it be edited and have that be another way that executives can hear more about the business before they decide to hire you. And that will be, if 2020's lesson was how to write a book, 2021's lesson will be how to run a podcast. And between those should be two marketing avenues that are different from the usual mailing and calls and email and other ways to get your name and your business out there in front of people. What are some of your guys' favorite podcasts? And you can't say the Joe Rogan Show. That one's taken.
Definitely Bigger Pockets, I would say, for me personally.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff that comes out of there. It's like if you want to go from nobody to somebody, if you just did half of what they told you, you would at least like be knowledgeable enough and confident enough and be able to put something together. I feel like that one's a great one. So we'll see with this book launch. If I send it to them and put 2 of those on their desk, will they let me on their podcast? And could I get them on mine? I'll make you a $20 bet, John, that we can make that happen in 2021.
I think you definitely could. I think they would love to have you on.
Any other good podcasts, real estate, that you guys like? I always look at it, they're good examples of like, okay, finally in that game, it's always good to hear like other examples of what people are doing out there that you guys like.
I think there is one that I used to listen a while ago from, it's from Cushman & Wakefield, I believe. There is a title to that podcast, but I can't think of it right now. I think it might be called the Greater LA Podcast or something like that. They talk a lot about technology and innovation and future trends in real estate. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's great. It's funny, I found the big companies, some have slowly waded into the space. And then some individual agents like us have waded into the space, but it's not many, and it's a surprisingly few. Like you get a lot in residential, you'll get some in like lending, and you'll get some that have to do with the warehouse, but not specifically property. So as much as there's hundreds and thousands of them now, it seems like that are relevant to this space and to this area is not too many.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to how you like are strategizing all these marketing ventures. It's really interesting too. Like I've never even really thought about a book as a marketing strategy, but I can see it from your angle. It's very valuable.
If I didn't sell a single one, but it still led to a new, opportunity to work on, right? That would be worth it in and of itself. But that's the joy of the business, right? It's just up to you to brainstorm ideas and to bring things together to, bring these to life.
Absolutely.
But I wish I had done all these sooner. It took me a while to feel like I knew what I was doing enough to even attempt them, much less try and do them well.
Justin, is about 7:04. I want to be mindful of all of your guys' time. But before we wrap it up, I would love to take a picture of everybody. I have here my snipping tool. So if everybody could turn their camera on, if you have a camera, I'd love to take a picture. I'll wait maybe like 10 seconds.
If you want to put like in the gallery view, Matteo, so you can see everybody's face.
I got it.
Cool.
I think that's the only way, right, to take a picture?
Yeah.
You gotta use the gallery. Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, because Sharon was saying how she wanted to send it as well, Justin. So she wanted like a picture of all of you as well.
All right. I feel like we have to like raise a glass or, show what food we're eating, or that's the Zoom family picture.
All right, let's get this. I'll do 3, 2, 1. All right, I think I got it, but.
Well, thank you guys. I'm glad UCI's live and well, and we got some real estate people together, and appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we do.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank
we
you.
didn't go far. I live like 2 miles from campus, so if you have any questions or anything, here's all our stuff, and feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin.
Cool. We'll see you guys later.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge. Okay. Have a good night.
Anytime.
All right, bye everyone.